Domo domo, what is up everybody? Welcome back to the JUJUTSU KAISEN Manga Lounge, Chapter 117, the Shibuya Incident Part 35. Damn, 35 chapters worth of JUJUTSU KAISEN Shibuya action. Was that almost like 8 months or something now? Man, we've been here a while, but not to say that it's overstaying its welcome or anything. Week in, week out, it's just absolutely amazing. But yeah, as always, thank you very much. If you choose to leave a like, comment, all that good stuff, spreading that positive juju, I really do appreciate it. But yeah, without further ado, here it comes, Chapter 117, Shibuya Incident Part 35. Let's do this. Alright, immediately we are treated to this amazing color page. Damn! It's, of course, back in Chapter 3, I think it was, we saw that little panel of kind of a shadowy Sukuna. You know, when Gojo was talking to Yuji, kind of explaining the history a little bit behind Sukuna. But this is the first time we've seen it so upfront, and what a crazy, crazy color page. He looks so awesome. Even got the 4 eyes, the 4 arms, and you know but there's kind of a couple of mysterious things. You know, he's got this thing on his face there. It's kind of hard to tell what it is, but you can see the eyes kind of peeking out of that. And he's also holding a spear as well as this kind of dagger, almost look, you know, kind of very ancient Japanese, almost kind of ritualistic. And you know, Sukuna kind of in lore and stuff is supposed to be kind of having that kind of ritualistic side to it as well. Again, there's so much things we don't know about Sukuna as the character in JUJUTSU KAISEN, and there's a lot of lore behind Sukuna in terms of just common lore and religiously speaking, and in terms of Japanese history and stuff, that there's things that do connect with the character in JUJUTSU KAISEN, and there are things that are different about the character too. So but anyways, it's an amazing color page here and looking completely badass. Kind of point out, I don't know if this is just kind of like a weird way that the art style is too. Also in his abdomen, kind of on the left side, I don't know if it's like a cutout or something. It looks like maybe it's signifying that it's almost kind of like a seppuku, kind of like a, you know, how do you call it, stabbing oneself. Ritualistic suicide they call in Japan, seppuku, harakiri. So maybe that's what it is, or maybe it's just a weird art detail, but it looks like, because remember, Sukuna was originally a human being in this story anyway, so maybe that's how he had met his demise, is that he ended up killing himself. But who knows? That's I'm not going to state that as fact, but it's kind of an interesting little detail here. But yeah, let's move on to page 2. It's just a little title, and page 3. Obviously now we left off last chapter with Megumi and Ponytail at 11:07 p.m. And Megumi on the ground, well, against a building, bloody head, and Ponytail kind of freaking out. But this is at 11:05, so roughly 2 minutes before where we left off in chapter 116. And then Megumi starts to kind of get into detail a little bit here about the 10 Shadows technique, his jutsu technique, right? But there are some kind of things, he does go into great detail, but there are kind of things that are like, huh, what does that mean? And that, again, that's just how the format is. Akutami Sensei, whenever they kind of explain these techniques, there are things that are kind of not quite explained and things that are explained, so you have to just kind of be patient with kind of these kind of things, right? I remember when I was translating this, it was kind of like, what does that mean? What does this mean? But just kind of maybe read between the lines a little bit. But it seems like the kind of the timeline, so to speak, with how the 10 Shadows techniques work is that the user is given 2 divine dogs first, and then in order to gain more, that they have to summon them and they have to defeat them, and then they can finally use that next Shikigami as their own. But so it almost kind of makes it sound as though that once the 2 divine dogs are given to Megumi and are under his control, then he's able to attempt the next one. But they're always kind of in the roster. He can summon them, as we see later on in the chapter with Maharaga, he's able to summon them at any time, but he's not he doesn't have them under his control until he defeats them, right? So we move on to page 4, and Ponytail kind of referring to Nobara here, saying, yeah, that girl was pretty strong too, and you guys are all still so young. But Megumi's just kind of keep on going on, and he finally falls over. But he explains this little kind of catch to the ability that if you attempt to exercise one of the Shikigami with more than one person, that all of a sudden it seems to imply that it nullifies the effect of once it's defeated, that it's under his control. So that's why he kind of goes on to say, for the sorcerer, it's a pointless exorcism, because yeah, you defeat the Shikigami, but it's not, you no longer, you kind of nullify the effect and you can't use it anymore. It's kind of, that kind of begs the question, well, are you allowed to attempt it again by yourself, and can you have it as a Shikigami then? Or if you attempt to exercise it with more than one person, is it no longer that Shikigami is no longer, you can't attempt it anymore? Those are the kind of things what I mean. It's kind of left unsaid. But anyways, we flash back to Gojo and Megumi talking here, and he's talking in kind of a little bit about the history, saying that back in the Edo period or Keicho period, so this is possibly kind of 1600s to late 1700s era Japan, that the two houses, the two heads of House Gojo as well as House Zenin fought, and kind of mirroring Gojo and Fushiguro here, the Gojo family head was not only a user of the limitless curse technique, but he also had the 6 eyes, right? That's what, there's been extras talking about Gojo, that there have been multiple people who do possess the limitless curse technique, but they're unable to fully utilize it because they don't have the 6 eyes. And again, we don't know a lot of things about the 6 eyes except for a couple of details, but so theoretically, this person he's talking about was extremely strong, perhaps as strong as Gojo, maybe even stronger, who knows. But that he was fighting against the head of the Zenin family, who was also a 10 Shadows technique user. And Gojo goes on to say, you get what I'm trying to say, right? He's trying to encourage Megumi here, saying, look, there was someone back in the day who can do what you do, that stood toe to toe with someone like me. That's why kind of when we flash forward again on page 7 here, Megumi is saying, well, that doesn't mean that I can be as strong as you or stronger than you. And then it's cool because this is all kind of happening simultaneously, this fight, along with what's going on with Sukuna and Jogo, as shown here on page 8 with this big flame, and Ponytail kind of comments, wow, who's the show off, right? So this is at the same time that the big meteor, that Jogo brings out the big meteor, right? So then Megumi keeps on going on to say, well, here we go. And he starts to say this, that not a single person not a single 10 Shadows technique user has been able to exercise this one. And again, this is we've seen him try to summon this thing. We never knew what was going on back then when he started doing this with this treasure eye summon, but now he follows through with it, and he summons this beast, the this is a mouthful, but it was quite a mouthful in Japanese too. So 8-handled sword, Divergent Sila, Divine General Mahoraga. So let's kind of piece together what's going on here. So 8-handled sword is one of the it's kind of a sacred treasure in a branch of Buddhism, that it's part of one of 10 different treasures called the Tokusano Kandakara. That's what it is, the 10 treasures. And it's said that when you have these 10 treasures and you use this incantation, that you're able to even summon, that you're able to revive the dead. But in this case, it's kind of isolated with just the 8-handled sword. But of course, Akutami Sensei kind of taking creative liberties with it. The 8-handled sword is not, traditionally speaking in lore, it's not associated with the divine general Maharaga. So Maharaga is also a religious kind of reference, a divine general believed to kind of just exist in Japanese lore. Feel free to look it up. You'll find all sorts of information if you just kind of look up Maharaga yourself. But obviously, being a manga, it's not completely accurate in terms of what the lore is and this and that. So, but very cool nonetheless. As we move on to page 12, Ponytail realizing the situation that he's in now. So Megumi basically, as he was alluding to at the beginning of the chapter, forced the Ponytail into this exorcism ritual with him. So this ritual isn't going to end until either both, Megumi and Ponytail end up defeating Maharaga, or both of them die, right? But Megumi saying he already knows that he's so this was kind of a last resort, because he's already on his last leg anyways. But I love this little panel here on page 13 where he's saying, hey, I'll be the first one to pass on. Good luck. I'll see you later. I'll be going on without you. I'll see you there, though, kind of deal. Very, very kind of just this crazy look on his face, right? But and then this is exactly when it lines up with the end of chapter 116. We know what happened. Megumi did indeed get thwacked away into this building here. He's out of commission. And then now Ponytail on page 16. Damn it, this is Stop Messing Around, right? This is what happened at the end of page 116. So then we kind of flash sideways to Sukuna and the newly named Uraume. And it does indeed seem like Jogo is is indeed R.I.P. He's gone. There was kind of a slim hope in the last chapter that perhaps that wasn't quite the case, but indeed last chapter seems like a farewell to Jogo. But Sukuna immediately recognizes the spike in cursed energy across town. And then he's talking to Uraume here, and obviously they seem to have this kind of rapport, this relationship, and they seem to be on good terms. Uraume, a servant of Sukuna, it seems. Again, we don't know much more beyond that, but Sukuna kind of reassuring Uraume, don't worry, it won't be too much longer before I'm back and fully in control. But he's saying that don't neglect your preparations, implying that there's something that Uraume is kind of doing behind the scenes. Remember, Uraume was part of the fake Geto as well as Mahito and them. So perhaps Uraume has kind of had their own objectives behind the scene. Who knows? There's so many kind of twists and turns that could happen. Maybe Uraume does know who the fake Geto's identity is and working against them. Perhaps they're working with them. It's hard to say. But Sukuna dashes over towards Maharaga, gets Ponytail out of the way. And then on page 19 here, Sukuna mentions, thinking to himself, oh, he's in a state of suspended death. So perhaps, as long as the ritual is still going on, a situation where he would be normally dead, it's not quite fully dead until the other person participating, Ponytail in this case, dies as well, and then finally it's the nail in the coffin. Again, these are kind of things that are a little bit unexplained, but that's how I interpreted it anyways. And seems to be kind of what Sukuna is implying in the following chapter, saying, actually right below it, saying that if this piece of trash, the Ponytail, dies, then Fushiguro is going to be fully dead. But it seems like Sukuna is implying that he did sort of revive or kind of help Ponytail, maybe found him after Nanami knocked him out, found him and then revived him to use him, and it kind of paid off because he he was kind of with Megumi here, right? Remember, Sukuna very much an important piece of the puzzle to what Sukuna's plan is, whatever that might be. As on page 20 he says, there's something I need you to do. And then on the bottom of the page 20 here, he says, in order to keep Fushiguro alive, I need to defeat the Shikigami even though I'm an outsider. So he's saying that if a third party sort of gets involved in this ritual and ends up defeating Maharaga, then the ritual becomes null. Becomes void, so to speak. So if Maharaga defeats Sukuna and ends up killing Ponytail, then Fushiguro's done. But if a third party, a outlier, so to speak, like Sukuna were to defeat Maharaga, then all of a sudden it's as though nothing happened. But yeah, getting ready, saying let's start with a little taste, shall we? But yeah, very, very cool chapter. Of course, a lot of kind of, what's going on with the explanations, 10 Shadows technique, what's going on with Sukuna and Uraume and all this. What the heck is this Maharaga thing? We see the little wheel behind him. Surely that, kind of, that's the representation of what the 8-handle sword. If you look up like 8-handle sword, for example, you might see depictions of it kind of like this, almost like a ship wheel with the blade. Perhaps that'll have something to do with what Maharaga's kind of ability is. Who knows? Obviously, it's extremely, extremely strong if no one has been able to exercise it before. None of the users of it anyways. So who knows? Yeah, it's implying that also, remember, like Gojo was saying that back in the day when the two heads of the households fought, that the head of the Zenin family summoned it at that time too, and maybe even the head of the Gojo family at that time struggled with this Maharaga. So, right, because it says that they ended up sort of killing each other. So perhaps the Maharaga ended up killing the head of the Zenin family and then ended up killing Gojo as well, thus basically both of them being dead in that fight, right? So they're very supposed to be very strong, very, very strong. So we'll see hopefully in the next chapter what's going on with these two. But yeah, that was chapter 117. Thank you very much for sticking around, again, for leaving a like. If you did enjoy, if you didn't, don't worry about it. But I do appreciate that positive juju, and hey, I'll say thank you very much. You know how we do. Mata yoroshiku. We'll see you again.